With us from the CBS News Washington Bureau is Bloomberg News White House correspondent Mike Dorning. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. And I do want to begin with Kellyanne Conway's announcement that Donald Trump, again, will not look to pursue an investigation of Hillary Clinton. This was certainly a big talking point through those last weeks of the campaign, as many people at rallies chanted "lock her up" and other things. What's your reaction to the news then?
I think that's like a smart political play. Hillary Clinton is no longer a threat to him. You'd be burning up a lot of energy, a lot of political capital going after her. And now's the time when you want to make an effort to heal some campaign divisions. So that would be kind of straight out of a standard political playbook.
Mike, Donald Trump laid out the first orders of business for his administration. We saw him touch on a wide array of topics. What stood out to you?
Well, trade stood out because that's something that he can do. He can just withdraw from the TPP just by the stroke of his pen at this point because it hasn't been ratified. And what he's focusing on here, I think, are more things that are less controversial and more with the overarching message of putting America back to work, jobs, moving the economy forward. And that's an element of his appeal that transcends his base. So it's something that both addresses the needs of his base and gives him a chance to build up from that. And that's the main focus of this message at this point. Again, it's a standard political appropriate thing to do at this point. Focus on things that will address both the demands of your base and give you a chance to broaden out a little bit at this point.
Is that perhaps why we did not hear him touch on the repealing and replacing of the Affordable Care Act?
I think you're absolutely right, Josh. I think that's why he probably didn't focus on it at this point. I do not take from this statement any sense that he won't do that or won't do some sort of border security that looks something vaguely like a wall, because both those things he talked about so much during his campaign. But at this point, I think he's appropriately focusing on things that have a broader appeal whilst simultaneously addressing the true yearning that rallied his base to him.
And for someone who seems aware of optics as this transition does continue, we've also seen a rather tumultuous time between the president-elect and the media in these last 24 hours. He canceled a meeting that was set with the New York Times to be on the record. We've just learned, in fact, that has just been put back on the schedule today. Of course, he met with members of the press yesterday. One source told the New York Post it was something akin to a firing squad. You cover the White House, Mike, day in, day out. How concerned are you about access?
Well, I think you have to be very concerned about access and very concerned that they're really going to try to control things and almost try to use power to not just persuade but intimidate people who are covering the White House. That's what this opening act yesterday, as reported in the New York Post, I wasn't there, so I don't know what actually happened, feels like. So it's a concern, but you'll have to see how this plays out over time.
I want to turn to his cabinet, of course. The Secretary of State post remains unfilled. Mike, Rudy Giuliani had been mentioned as a favorite. His name has been attached to it for quite some time. Of course, the meeting was held with Mitt Romney this weekend past. What do you make of the fact that this now stands unfilled and that Giuliani's name has been attached to other positions?
Yeah, no, in fact, my colleague who's at Trump Tower just emailed me that Giuliani came in again this morning to talk to Trump. I make of it mainly that he's not a lock cinch for the Secretary of State job, that he more likely is trying to find another place for Giuliani. We know that President-elect Trump really values loyalty, so he's probably trying to find a place for Giuliani. And when you hear other posts come up, it suggests that inside their circle, they're trying to find a different place for Giuliani and come up with someone who might be less of a lightning rod for Secretary of State. I don't know whether that'll be Mitt Romney or not. That's something that has been put out there, but you'd have to see how the two men could have a meeting of minds. Maybe they might not.
if it was either Mitt Romney or Rudy Giuliani, it would, again, be in addition to what you have highlighted in a recent piece for Bloomberg, the homogenous nature of his administration picks to this point. It would be another white man added. Yesterday, and really in days recent, we have seen Donald Trump meet with several people of color. We've seen him meet with women. Do you have a sense that these meetings are being done for optical reasons?
I'm sure they are partly done for optical reasons, and it's kind of interesting. He's taking this approach to assembling his cabinet and doing these early consultations in a very different way than people like Obama or some prior presidents. It's a very public, almost like a reality show. So you have to think that a lot of what's going on is a bit staged, and he is bringing people in to send a message as well as to do actual real consultations. There's always an element of that in politics, but in this case it's a little bit more visible, a little bit more dramatic. Now the proof is in the pudding on diversity, and the first 5 people that he picked were all white men, and they were all pretty people who think like him. In fact, 4 out of the 5 top people were really people that you would think of as kind of firebrands on the more ideological end of Republican politics. The exception being his chief of staff, Reince Priebus, who's much more of an establishment figure within the Republican Party.
Again, we are told that meetings continue as he looks to round out his administration, and we will look to see what those picks tell us. Bloomberg News White House correspondent Mike Dorning, very much appreciate the time and insight today.
Happy to help.